How's it going, everybody? JT here, coming at you with another episode of Pokémon GO, and the Power Plant event is going to be going live very soon, and it's not exactly the most exciting thing, is it? But with that being said, there are some good things in this event that I think you should definitely focus on, and we're going to go over all of those very soon. And of course, we also have to realize that we only know about the first half of this event. This is a 2-week event, and the second week looks like it might be a lot better, so we have to hold our judgment till the full thing has been released. But for right now, week 1 is a little weak. For starters, let's dive into the brand new Gen 6 Pokemon making its debut in Pokemon GO, Helium Tile. It's one of my favorite Gen 6 Pokemon. I absolutely love it, but sadly, in terms of in Pokemon GO, it's not going to be that useful. As a Helium Tile, its max CP is 1054, its attack is 115, its defense is 78, and its stamina is 172, which makes it okay, but a little bit squishy, to be fully honest with you. It may be decent in Small Cup, because it does have some pretty decent PvP moves, but for the most part, it's not great. And when it evolves into Heliolisk, it is a little bit better in terms of attack, but everything else is not exactly the best. So its max CP is 2,939, its attack is 219, its defense is 168, and its stamina is 158. So a very high attacking Pokemon that's pretty squishy, unfortunately. And there's a ton better electric types in the game, so sadly, this Pokemon doesn't seem like it's going to get a lot of play. Even with its movesets being pretty decent for PvP, it has no PvE play whatsoever, and in PvP, it's probably going to get destroyed. Especially because of its typings, which I probably should have mentioned earlier. It is an electric and normal type Pokemon, which means not only is it weak to ground, which is pretty common in PvP, but also it's weak to fighting now. And there's a lot of Shadow Machamps, Metachamps, all sorts of things that will give this a bad time. So sadly, this Pokemon, though it looks cool and I absolutely love it, it just won't exactly be that useful in this game. But I'm definitely going to try to get a hundo just to get it, because I love this Pokemon. I absolutely love this Pokemon. I used it in X and Y, but yeah, in terms of Pokemon GO, it's going to be a hundo trophy, and that's pretty much it. Also, if you want to evolve a Helium Tile into a Heliolisk, you're going to need 50 candies and a Sunstone. In the main series games, it needed a Sunstone. We actually have Sunstones in Pokemon GO, so don't throw those away, because there's other Pokemon later down that are going to need them as well. So Sunstones are that one evolution item you should definitely hold on to. Now let's dive into all the spawns in this event. Some of them are absolutely fantastic, and I'm really happy that they're showing up. Others, not so much, but let's dive in, with the first one being Magnemite. Magnemite is a good Pokemon to grind. Not only does it have a fantastic shiny, but in terms of Pokemon GO, it is very useful as Magnezone, specifically as Shadow Magnezone. It is the 5th best electric type in the game, period, below Shadow Zapdos, Mega Manectric, Shadow Raikou, and Shadow Electivire. So it actually is pretty good to be in the top 5 as a Shadow Pokemon, and with the moves Spark and Wild Charge, it's just really good. And with part 2 of this event coming up next week, we will also be able to get rid of frustration from our Shadow Pokemon. So if you run into the electric type Team Go Rocket Grunt, you have a high chance of getting a Magnemite from it, and it's definitely worth doing because you'll have something very, very powerful. And it's decent in PvP as a Magneton as well, for sure. I don't know about having it as a Shadow in PvP, but nonetheless, Magnemite has play in Pokemon GO, so it's good to have a ton of them to grind XLs for, to max them up as high as you can. Next up will be Grimer, and Grimer is pretty good, especially because of PvP. It doesn't have any PvE play whatsoever, but in PvP, both the Kanto and the Alolan form have play in this game. So definitely grind them out, try to get your XLs, and try to get good PvP forms, because Muck is pretty disgusting, especially Alolan Muck. I see Alolan Muck much more than I see Kanto Muck, but Alolan Muck is just disgusting. With Poison Jab or with Snarl, I mean, it's just such a great Pokemon, so definitely grind it out, and if you find an Alolan Grimer task, grind those out as well, because you want to get that Alolan Muck. And luckily, both the Kanto and Alolan Muck use the same Grimer candy, so it's good to grind them out in the wild, and then use them on the Alolans or a good PvP Kanto one. And after Grimer, we have Voltorb, which, unfortunately, in terms of Pokemon GO, is not the greatest. It's not really useful for anything, but it does have a very nice shiny. It does have that going for it. And when it evolves into Electrode, Electrode does have slight play in PvP, but not as much as other Pokemon. Electrode usually gets beat, but it does have a decent moveset, so if you find a good PvP one, hold on to it. Maybe there'll be a special cup in the future that you can use it with. But for now, it's more of a shiny hunting thing more than anything else, and other than that, it's not good for PvE or anything, so Unless you absolutely love Voltorbs, you could probably skip out on this one. The next Pokemon is the best Pokemon to grind for this entire event, and that is Electabuzz. Electabuzz is amazing because when it is an Electivire and it is shadowed, it is the number one electric type Pokemon in the game, even over Shadow Raikou. And there is a way for you to get Shadow Electabuzz right now, and that is from the same Team Go Rocket Grunt that gives you Magnemite. If Electabuzz is the second Pokemon in the roster, you have a chance of getting it, though it is only a 10 to 15% chance of it happening. You can still get it, and hopefully you'll get a good one because, again, Shadow Electivire is number one. It looks like it's also possibly future-proof unless we get like Shadow Zekrom or something like that. So for now, it's worth grinding, and again, with part 2 of this event, we will be able to TM away frustration from all of our Shadow Pokemon. So this is the time to grind it. If you see any grunts whatsoever, you should be grinding them, but if you see the electric grunt, definitely grind that one. After that, we have Porygon, which has a great shiny, and it does have slight play in PvP if it has its Community Day move, which it will not be gaining during this event, according to at least the in-game news. It doesn't look like it's going to be getting Tri-Attack, so other than being a nice shiny and a possible thing for you to Elite Charge TM, it's okay, but it's not really useful for anything else besides minor instances in PvP, so go for it if you want, but more than likely, we'll probably get a Calm Day Part 2 for it again, seeing that they're doing that with Bulbasaur, so I'd kind of just hold off and not really hunt this one too hard. And next up we have Trubbish, which is another Pokemon that I definitely feel you guys should be grinding for, because unfortunately right now it doesn't have much play, but when you evolve your Trubbish into Garbodor, Garbodor has the possibility of Gigantamaxing, and Gigantamax Garbodor could be the best poison type in Pokemon Go, period. We don't know yet. You know, there could be another one that's better, but at this moment, it is worth grinding one, try to get the XLs to get it to level 50, because you want to have future stuff for future content, like, say, the Gigantamaxes. For all we know, Gigantamax Garbodor could be disgusting, and not just physically, but like in the game. And of course, Helium Tile will be out in the wild, which is cool. Again, grind for it if you really want to, but I don't think it's going to have much impact on your gameplay. And then after that, there are 2 lucky Pokemon, if you will. They're really not that great, but Electrode and Jolteon will be showing up in the wild. Neither of them, unfortunately, look like they will be able to be shiny unless they surprise us with that, which would be cool. We've already had Umbreon and Espeon show up in the wild shiny, so maybe shiny Jolteon in the wild, but I don't know. And as for their play, Jolteon has very little play whatsoever, both in PvP and PvE, and again, Electrode is decent in PvP, but not exactly the most favorable thing to use. So if you find them, catch them for the dust, but other than that, that's kind of all they're really good for is dust. When it comes down to the raids in this event, none of them are really all that spectacular. The ones I would tell you to focus on if you need the shinies would be Shinx, even though we had a Calm Day for it. If you're brand new and you haven't been able to do that yet, it's definitely worth doing. It has a high shiny rate. Also, Clink has a high shiny rate as well, and I would possibly recommend you doing Beldum raids, but you won't have an increased shiny rate on them, and it's really only just to get XL candies, which you're not guaranteed from 1-star raids, so out of all of them, that's what I would focus on. I mean, 3-star raids, there are Scythers, and there's going to be Mawile, and there's going to be Dredagon in week 1. Week 2, there's only Dredagon, and all of those have increased shiny rates on them, but Typhlosion doesn't, and I mean, there's Genesect right now that can't be shiny, so I wouldn't really worry about it. It is not good with this Shock Drive, so do 1 for the Dex entry, and that'll be it. And then afterwards, we're going to have Regice, which, again, isn't really that useful. It can be shiny, which is nice, but other than that, it's not exactly the most exciting raid bosses. To be honest with you, right now, I'm kind of taking a small break from raids just to save a little bit of money, because there's really nothing here besides maybe Dredagon that's worth raiding for right now for me personally. When it comes down to the research tasks, even though we currently don't know what they are, they can give you either a Magnemite, a Voltorb, Electrike, Joltik, or Helium Tile, and if you're really lucky, you might be able to find an Alolan Grimer one, a Trubbish one, and a Mulga. And out of all of them, I would say try your best just to grind out the Alolan Grimer quests. They have an increased shiny rate, about a 1 in 64 odd chance of getting one, so definitely worth doing, and a possibility of getting a Shundo from research is higher than in the wild, so definitely try to get that. And then maybe the Emolga tasks, it just depends on what they want you to do for it. I wouldn't raid or do anything like that for Emolga. If it was a really hard catching task, I'd go for it, but Emolga has minor play in PvP, but other than that, isn't very useful unless you really want it for your hundo decks, and then otherwise, go for it. Again, IV spreads are 10, 10, 10 to 15, 15, 15, so there's a higher chance of you getting a better one, but you're still not guaranteed one, even with that increased possibility. So it's up to you what you go for, but out of everything I listed there, I would go for the Alolan Grimers only because of the PvP possibilities and the high shiny rate. And that's pretty much everything in this event that I had to tell you. I mean, there's some things to grind for, like I mentioned earlier, but other than that, this is kind of a meh event. It's a little bit of like a 5 out of 10 or even a 4 out of 10 right now, but part 2 could be better. I would like to emphasize that because we will have more Team Go Rocket grunts showing up, which means more Shadow Pokemon, which means more possibilities of good Shadow Pokemon that during that week you can get rid of frustration on. So it could be good, plus probably Giovanni will show up, and he might have Shadow Raikou on him, to be honest with you, because it's in the loading screen. We do have a Raikou show up, which, you know, it is the year of the tiger, that's why they threw it on there, so maybe Raikou won't show up at all, but it would make sense with an electric type event getting Shadow Raikou, which again is a very good Shadow Pokemon, only being beaten by a Shadow Electivire, so it's worth going for if that shows up, if it shows up, of course. It definitely isn't guaranteed. I'm just spitballing here. Maybe it won't show up, but if it does, go for it. And let's not also forget that they could announce something really cool for this next week as well, like new shiny Shadows or a new shiny Pokemon. I'm really hoping for shiny Emolga personally, but yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say for this event. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please smash that like button for me, show me some love. Subscribe to the channel, we're on the road to 100K, and don't forget to hit that little bell icon so you know when I upload. And also comment down below, what will you be grinding for in this event? Will you be going hard on the Magnemites? Are you really gonna go hard on those Electabuzz? Please let me know in the comments down below. And if you really enjoy the content and you want to help the channel grow even more, there's a link to my Patreon and merch in the description box below. But with that being said, this is the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.